Welcome to Ground Truth. Join Sam Faddis as he looks for truth from those on the ground, in the middle of the action with key insights regarding critical national and international issues. Listen for discussions and interviews on national security, terrorism, politics, espionage, the paranormal, and weapons of mass destruction.
Welcome, I'm Sam Faddis. This is Ground Truth, and we're coming to you from WKCV 103.5 FM in Keystone College. We talk about a lot of issues on the program that I think are of significance and importance, but I think maybe today we're going to talk about something that's more important than any of those. It'd be hard to think of something that has more gravitas and really demands our attention, because we're going to be talking about veterans, issues that veterans are facing, problems, challenges, and what we all ought to be doing, frankly, to try to address those and keep the commitment that we made to these men and women who put themselves on the line for us. We talk a lot about veterans and their commitment to the country, and it always strikes me that that bond goes both ways. You know, it's great to talk about people putting their lives on the line for all of us, but when we ask them to do that, implicitly we are saying, and we're there for you, and we will take care of you, and we will stand behind you with the same commitment. So that's the kind of thing we're going to be talking about today. We've got two guests with us in studio, Dave Reagan and Ray Stender, both here from Veterans Promise, which is a veterans group. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Welcome, sir.
Let's start with this, just to kind of give everybody a foundation. I mean, what is Veterans Promise, and generally, what's your mission statement?
So Veterans Promise is a 501c3 based out of Dixon City. We do suicide prevention for veterans, drug and alcohol addiction support. We provide small hardship grants for veterans that have had hardships within the community. We have a Wall of Heroes that honors the veterans that we lost here in the home front. We do that each month on the 22nd. We invite all their families here to give them a place to come and heal and be together in the community. And, you know, the other main part about that is the advocacy portion. So when there's injustices in the community or things that are going wrong with the veterans, they have a place that they can come, voice their discretions, and we can then be that voice to help correct whatever that deficiency is. And we've had great success in doing that.
So you mentioned Dixon City, and just for anybody that's listening to this online, we're talking Dixon City is just north of Scranton in northeast Pennsylvania, which is where we're recording today. You said one thing in the midst of all of that, which was all important, which was you made reference to the fact that you do certain things on the 22nd of each month. And that number, I think, that's not a random choice. There's a specific significance to that number. Can you highlight that for us?
The 22nd represents the 22 veterans that take their lives each day throughout this country. And on the 22nd of each month, we hold a candlelight vigil, and we honor those. Right now, we have a Wall of Heroes at our building, and each veteran that has taken their life within this area we have on there, and their families are allowed to come to the vigil. And some of them at times want to get up and they want to speak, they want to voice their opinion. Sometimes it's kids, 9-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds, or it's the aunt or the uncle. But as of right now, we're doing on the 22nd of each month.
And that number 22, you know, is really the pontificated number that's out there statistically. I would say fundamentally we don't necessarily believe that that number is the accurate number. You know, they can't say it's 100, they can't say it's 50. You know, statistically they're saying that number is actually going down, but there's a lot of factors that go into that number. You know, they didn't poll certain states when that number came out, California and Texas. I don't think Pennsylvania was in it. So, you know, the number is kind of stuck. I don't really feel fundamentally, though, that number is the accurate number.
Right. So that number could be a lot worse.
Yes, absolutely.
Without a doubt.
So, you know, I remember when I heard that statistic for the first time a number of years ago, and I just thought that's one of the most horrifying things that I have ever heard, that you have men and women, many of whom have really been in harm's way and survived everything and come home and now are sitting here back home on our soil. And I mean, I'll say it, and we are failing them somehow so completely that they end up in desperation killing themselves. My son, who's a combat wounded Marine vet, he and his buddies for a long time have done this deal where on the 22nd, they kind of check up on whatever their informal cadre of guys is. And frankly, they probably do it more often than just once a month. And they will do this thing where, okay, we haven't heard from Bill. He ain't answering the phone. Who's the closest guy to where Bill is now? So somebody's getting in a car, somebody's driving, somebody's taking time off from work to find Bill sitting at the kitchen table with a bottle of Jack and a loaded handgun, and then walk in and pour the booze down the sink and unload the weapon and put on a pot of coffee and saying, we ain't doing this, bro.
Amen.
We didn't walk out of Helmand so it could end like this. I have incredible respect for that commitment, and yet at the same time don't feel like we as a nation ought to be relying upon these guys to still be the only ones taking care of each other after they've already anteed up more than once. When you guys are dealing with this issue, what is leading people to suicide? I mean, is there a way to break that down to explain how this is happening?
I mean, I think it's just that the cocktail of the environment we're in right now. There's more resources out there than there ever was. I think we could agree to that. The problem is we've been failed a lot, so we don't trust in many things. So that is hard to get the veteran into certain, access to resources. So you really have to kind of win that trust, and that's a hard thing at times. But to say it's one thing versus the other, I mean, the addiction rate is through the roof. So we got climate of guys that are coming home hurt. Now they're addicted to pain pills. Now they don't have enough, so now they're scoring stuff on the street. Then they're getting in trouble. And here they served their country proudly and deployed multiple times, and now they're a felon. Now they're in trouble. All of that stuff plays such a huge role in it. The family part, I mean, divorce rates, families don't stay together. Guys are having trouble with their PTSD, and they're not able to see their children because their behavior is such because they're having a hard time. And
right.
I think all that contributes,
Absolutely. They can have PTSD for a long time. They can be out of the service 10, 15 years and not even realize that they're suffering with PTSD. Sometimes they come out of the service now. I've talked with a lot of soldiers that have recently separated, and especially if they've been in the military for a number of years and now they come out, they're used to regimental things. And now they come into a job, maybe it's not really a high-class named job, and maybe they were in charge of a tank. A multi-million-dollar piece of equipment, and suddenly they got a job, they're working a cash register, let's say, in a grocery store. And in their mind, this, wow, I'm better than this. But they feel trapped. They don't see or how or know, okay, so what do I have? But they don't have the energy. Am I stuck here? And along with taking the medications, and then they go to veterans and they get diagnosed that they've got PTSD, and all this starts to weight on their shoulders, and they just kind of get in a downward spiral. At Veterans Promise, we're trying to find these guys and trying to reach them and bring them back up so that the worst things going through, when they lose the battle here, it's not like losing it overseas. It's kind of, there's some acceptance or closure when it's done on a deployment. But here, the wife, the mother, the father, the aunts, the uncles, the son, the daughter, there's no closure to them of why this happened.
Yeah, I wonder sometimes personally as I thinking about this. I was in the military, then I was in the CIA for a long time, and I mention that just because we worked a lot with the U.S. military downrange, and I come from kind of a military family as well. And I wonder sometimes thinking about these issues and thinking about what guys did after the Second World War. And I think there clearly is a lot of PTSD that simply was just undiagnosed at that time, so it's not as if it just suddenly appeared.
I agree with you.
But I wonder how much difference there is between going off to war for a relatively short period of time where the whole nation is in it together and pretty much everybody who doesn't have a medical issue in your age group is in uniform. And then we all come home, we move on, compared to a situation where you could quite easily go down range, serve, do multiple deployments, come home, be back in a community. And as far as you can tell, other than what they see on TV, nobody else even knows there's a war on.
Right.
Most guys didn't serve, and most people, that's not, I mean, they're aware generally something's happening in Iraq and Afghanistan, but it's not dominating their existence. So, I mean, how much that leaves you in a mode of wondering why? What was it all about? What was the sacrifice all about? Why'd my buddy die? Why is he gone now? I mean, I don't know.
What did I get to accomplish during that time?
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned to you guys before we came on air, well, you know, my son, I know, came back from his first combat deployment. His best friend had been killed while they were in Helmand. So the first thing he does when he goes on leave is go to visit the mother of this guy who was so young he'd never even had a chance to get married. And he's sitting there talking to the mother, and you know what he's thinking is, what she wants to know is, why is my son gone? And he's wondering the same thing. Why is my buddy gone? Like, exactly what did we just accomplish? And was there a reason? Anyway, complex. I mean, what do you guys try to do in dealing with suicide? I know you do other stuff besides that, but I mean, how do you get involved, and what do you do to intervene, and what services can you offer?
So on the crisis side of the house, you know, when we find someone that is in crisis, you know, we'll call 911, we'll go out and we'll do a welfare check. Right now, law enforcement is starting to recognize our hard work in the community. So, you know, recently we've been asked to go out on an actual call with the police to where the veteran comes outside and we're right there to talk to them. Hey, you know, we're here. We love you. We respect your service. We need to help get you in treatment. And, you know, no one's getting arrested. No one's getting hurt. Everyone's going home safe. And that's a great trust that we're given by law enforcement. But, you know, mostly, unfortunately, we're kind of the cleanup crew at a lot of times, because when the loss happens, there's nobody doing anything for these families. Nothing. I mean, they are just left in the wind. And when you add children, you know, my goodness, I mean, to think that these kids are growing up with no fathers and, you know, there's going to be no support. So we try very hard to wrap our arms around that family by what we're doing and give these kids support in any way we can. And there's no limits to that. And, you know, we're very proud of the relationships that we've had with these families, because it's a priceless thing. And I truly believe it's God's work.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no one is doing that.
We have a support groups that actually convene with drug and alcohol on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then we have for PTSD, the families. They can come down anytime they want, and we'll support them. Sometimes they need to vent. You know,
without question.
Yeah.
Well, and I also think, look, you know, you're talking about vets. So, you know, you can talk about trying to get people in touch with their feelings. I'm not trying to be snarky. That's a real thing. But the reality is, if you're in the military and you're doing your job, on some level, it's always going to have to be just suck it up.
Well,
just
get over it.
Drink water.
Get over it. Exactly. Yeah. Embrace
just move on.
Embrace the suck of whatever terminology for whatever service. You got to get through it. You got to move on. That's what it's all about. So now you're on the other side of that. You're out. You're really having a friggin' hard time. But you, the guy, the gal, whoever we're talking about, hard sell to get them to look in the mirror and say, I got a problem, I can't handle it.
Absolutely.
So I imagine you're talking about, in a lot of cases, the way this is going to come to your attention in time to prevent the suicide is because somebody else is going to come talk to you. And what I'm hearing from you guys is absolutely you're open to that. You do that. That's a big part of what you do.
Positively.
And I think the thing that has given us an advantage and a huge success rate is the fact, you know, I'm a suicide survivor. You know, I struggle with PTSD. I have chronic depression. Every day is a battle for me personally. I went to a PTSD program in the Coltsville VA, you know, and everyone bashes the VA. There are parts of the VA that are good. There are parts that are absolutely wonderful. This program saved my life. I, every day, indoctrinate myself with the tools that I was given, and I work it. Just like a person in recovery for drugs or alcohol. When I say I'm in recovery, the same as that. So when a person comes to me and they're struggling, I'm not coming from a place of inexperience. I'm coming from a place that, look, I've been in the 7th floor of the hospital. I've been in those psych wards. You know, I've been in a situation where, you know, I know what I have to do to put my guts on the table. I've cried. I've been angry. I felt worthless. So when you're able to find that with the person sitting across from you, and you say, look, I live a good life now, even though I struggle still, and I have hard times and bad days. You can overcome this. You have to do hard work, and you have to find people that you can truly trust. But if you follow certain things, you can live a better life. And not everybody will listen, but the ones that have, they're grateful because things have drastically changed for them. And, my greatest gift, our greatest victory of all of it is when we take a family or a veteran that has truly, been in that situation, or a family that has lost, and now they find a place of recovery within themselves. And now they're out doing the next step, which is helping prevent someone else, from suffering. And that's the goal.
And, you're talking about what I think is spot on, which is this idea, look, man, you're just going to have to get a huge number of people go through this. Everybody has issues. There's no such thing as
perfect.
You're Superman, you're immune, forget about it. I frankly, gone down my own road in that regard, working with the Central Intelligence Agency and junior officers coming on board, and look, I get it. You think you're Superman. You're not Superman. You're going to confront issues. You're going to deal with stuff. If you're not careful, you're going to end up an alcoholic. If you're not careful, you're going to lose your marriage. If you're not careful, you're going to go down this road. You are not impervious. The job will eat you up. The stress will eat you up. It's done it to everybody else. So let's just get past this fake macho stuff, and let's just get down to it, and let's deal with it. You talked about opioid use before. Buddy of mine, maybe the toughest man I've ever met in my frigging life, also the nicest, but a special operations guy. Severely wounded in Afghanistan, almost dies, ends up back stateside in a hospital. Wakes up one day in bed. I can't remember. At this point, he's been in bed for months. They've got him hooked up to a morphine pump. And he starts squeezing the morphine pump, and then somewhere in the back of his head, as he's healing, as he's dealing with, he realizes, I don't even know how long I've been here anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore. And I'm tired of not knowing and being gone. And somewhere inside he realizes, if I don't stop this, my life is over, in effect. I'm a junkie. I'm an addict. This stuff will rule me. And then goes and demands with the nurses and the doctors, take it out. Take me off of that. And they're like, you're still going to be in a lot of pain. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be in pain, but I'm going to be alive, and I'm going to be here.
Yes.
And what you guys are doing is just numbing me.
Right.
And you're killing me. Actually, what you're doing is worse than me dying.
But masking things.
Yes.
Mask over the
that pain will tell me it's real, and I'm back, and I'm moving ahead. And yeah, you're right. You know what? I'm probably going to be in pain for the rest of my life, given the nature of the wounds. Okay. Life sucks sometimes. Let's get on with it. So back to the whole issue. As we're sort of wandering our way toward the end of the segment, I'm listening to this, and I'm a family member. I'm the girlfriend, the wife, the husband, the brother, the sister of somebody going through this. And I want to reach out to you guys. How do I do that? How's that work? How do I find you, first of all?
They can go on Facebook.
Okay, we're looking for Veterans Promise.
Veterans Promise.
Veterans Promise NEPA on Facebook. Someone took the Veterans Promise first.
Yes.
All right, Veterans Promise NEPA to distinguish it from some other Veterans Promise. And they could message you guys?
Message us. They could reach out on our telephone number, 570-892-2060.
Okay, give me that one more time.
570-892-2060.
Okay.
And hit extension 4, and that'll ring right to my cell phone. So I can't give you any more of my life than I already
And that's Dave
got.
Reagan that's talking right now. So, okay, that's going to go right to him. And I can tell you from experience, when I was reaching out to you guys doing this, that I had pretty much hit send on a message to you on your Facebook page, and my cell phone rang. It's kind of scary, actually. I was like, I don't know. It's like spying on me or something. No, fantastic, because there are plenty of other organizations that you're trying to find and don't ever get back to you, and you kind of just move on.
And we have a program right now that they mentioned going down to Coatesville and going through their PTSD program. We're going to be reaching out to them on the 6th of December. We have backpacks and we have blankets we're going to put in there. We have a lot of toiletries that we'll be putting in there, items that they can use, and we'll take these down to them, and we're going to provide lunch for them for the day. And we're going to have a gentleman that's coming down to kind of put on a concert for them.
So Coatesville's down southeastern Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And there's some sort of rehab facility, or what is
It's
the facility down there?
Well, it's a VA hospital.
Okay.
But it's the treatment hospital.
Okay.
So this isn't the place that you're going to go to get your broken arm fixed. This is where you're going to go get your addiction to drugs and alcohol fixed. This is where you're going to go to get your PTSD in check. And, I mean, the facility is like a college campus there. It is absolutely wonderful what they're doing down there, you know.
Okay, so we talked to frame this, or I framed it as sort of a family member reaching out to you. I'm a vet. I'm just kind of lost. Like, I don't know, man. I'm adrift, and I get it. Things are not moving in a great direction for me, but I don't even know yet fully how to frigging articulate what my problem is, other than life kind of doesn't feel good right now. They can still reach out to you.
Absolutely.
Okay, there's no threshold here. There's no point at which somebody's going to say, hey, that's not a big enough issue for us, go away,
no.
or anything like that.
Not even with, even when you have guys that maybe don't have the best discharges. I mean, we look at everything case by case. How many guys, again, serve 4 or 5 deployments, and then they go out and get a DUI, and now their discharge is not, honorable, for whatever reason. I mean, so you have to...
Big issue in today's military. I mean, I'm old enough that I know that, go back to the days when if you didn't show up for PT in the morning, still metabolizing the alcohol from last night, you were a wimp, and you could fall out of formation as long as you rejoined before they finished the run and finished with everybody. That was proof you were a man.
Right.
Now you do that, you're probably getting processed and thrown out, and you're lucky if you don't get court-martialed. So,
right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I've guys come back off combat deployment, and you haven't seen a beer in 7 months, and now you're turned loose and outside Camp Lejeune. The fact that you could potentially end up having a DUI, not surprising to me. What do you think guys are going to do in that situation?
Anyone that contacts Veterans Promise, whether they're an actual veteran or they're a family member of a veteran or they know of a veteran, we have a motto, and that's we will do whatever it takes. If you need a ride somewhere, we've given veterans rides to the VA hospital. They've called and said, I'm really in a bad way. I don't know. I got to get some help now. And we'll go down there, we pick them up, and we take them right to the VA and get them admitted.
I remember that one gentleman from Dixon City, he asked me to read paperwork for him. So I go over to read the paperwork for him. It was nothing that was really of importance, but I look in his house, and he's on a fixed income, and he had a recliner, and his recliner had a kitchen chair in front of it. So in other words, the legs for the recliner did not go up and down. So I said to him, sir, is like, do you have a bed? He goes, no, this is where I sleep.
Okay.
Not okay. So it turned out that we got him 2 new recliners. We got people who were actually washing his clothes for a little while. We got him, some food. And I mean, again, the boundaries that we have are very, very wide, and that's what it should be.
We have a grant program where we can grant money to individuals. We've gotten calls. Veterans have no food. I mean, I don't know how in this day and age anybody that happens, but there is no food in their house.
We had a woman that came in with a sick child that had to get back and forth to Philadelphia. She's a veteran, and she was getting her car repossessed. So our hardship grant program at that time, we capped at $250. To hand her $250 was a slap in the face. Mm-hmm. I said, I have to get you a car. We have to get your child back and forth to Philadelphia. So through tough negotiations with 2 dealerships, 2 prominent dealers, Bonner Chevrolet and Toyota Scranton, we were able to negotiate with them and get her in a car, no cost to her, which doesn't happen.
Right.
And that was a week, that was like Christmas time. So this is the end of the year. All the money that they were going to give out tax exemption for that year was gone.
Yeah.
It was a miracle, and this is what we do.
So to bring this down as we're winding up here, we've talked about ways for folks to get to you guys and the kind of stuff you do. If I'm listening to this and I don't need help, but I want to help, like I want to get involved, I want to
become an advocate. Yes.
I want to, okay, fine, somebody else helped me, or I don't need help right now, but I agree. I want to get off the sidelines. I want to get involved. I want to give back. How do I do that? Same way, reach out to you guys?
Reach
Yes.
out.
Yeah.
Our board meetings are generally the first Monday of the month in our building on Main Street in Dixon City, 737 Main Street, 6:30 at night. And basically what we do is you come to the meeting, you sit through the whole meeting, you hear all the financials, you hear all the nuts and bolts of everything, and then you get to decide whether you want to be a part of our family.
Sure.
And we're not just, we take care of a lot of stuff on the outside, but a lot of our people too on the inside, have had addiction issues and PTSD issues, and so we formed this almost family atmosphere that is absolutely wonderful, and we support each other. So it's a wonderful thing on both sides of the house, for real.
Yeah. Well, look, I can't think of it, as I said at the beginning, I can't think of a more important subject, something more pressing, something that I think is a complete moral obligation for this country to take care of its vets. So if you need help, reach out. If you just want to give back, reach out. Guys, thanks for being here. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks
you
for
for
helping
having
us
us.
keep the promise.
And thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time on Ground Truth.